Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. I'd like to start this video by saying Merry Christmas to all of you and a Happy New Year. And if you're watching this video in June, then I guess I'm sorry about the jumper, I guess I'm sorry about the Christmas music. It's a video that I almost didn't make because I didn't really want to be making a video about how I hate this Porsche or this is the worst Porsche that I've ever had. But then I thought to myself, whatever, it's Christmas. So I've counted that I've owned 10 Porsches and I'm going to count them down from worst to best. And I'm probably going to get some hate for this video as well, but honestly, please, just don't take it personally. Because at some point I have loved these cars enough to go out and spend a lot of money on them. So I'm not necessarily saying that I hate these cars, it's just, it's a tough crowd, it's a tough competition because most of the cars, the Porsche cars that I've bought, they are sports cars. They're the cars that are going to get your blood flowing. So, you know, bear that in mind. Now, before we get into it, I've got some new old content coming to the channel between Christmas and New Year. I've got 4 videos on older cars that I just never got round to publishing on the channel. So there'll be a video on my Porsche Targa, my black 991, my white Porsche Macan, and the black Cayenne. So look out for those between Christmas and New Year. All right, let's do this. So number 10 was my Porsche Cayenne, a huge, big, bulky unit that soccer mums and dads seem to love. A very comfortable drive, but in black it was a pain in the arse to keep clean. Expensive to run, never gonna be a classic. Would I have another one? Of course I would. So why is it bottom of my list then? Well, like I say, it's a tough crowd. Most of my Porsches have been low down sports cars that really get the blood flowing. This Cayenne is more suited to getting the groceries in or doing the school run. This really is a bad Christmas jumper, isn't it? Anyway, we're on to number 9, my Porsche Macan. It looked good, it looked really good, but it didn't really drive so well. It was kind of jerky and somewhat awkward with passengers in, having to explain why the car was so jerky. I've driven other Macans and they weren't as bad, so maybe mine was just a dud. I'd like to think though that at some point during my driving career, I would be back in the seat of another Porsche Macan. Although probably next time it'll probably be a GTS or a turbo variant. I've driven the turbo, fantastic. I've driven the brand new Macan, another great car. But again, I mean, look what it's competing with. So next up, number 8 was my white 991 Carrera S. This was my first 991 and I owned it for about a year. It had a cream interior which was very difficult to keep clean. I tried also to give it the 911R look. I put the GT3 front bumper on, which didn't look too bad, but it was always a great pretender. Nice car, but I did get bored of this one pretty soon. Interestingly though, when I bought this car in 2016, the cost of a 4-year-old 911 Carrera S with 20,000 miles on the clock was around about £61,000. If we looked at a 4-year-old 911 Carrera S in today's money, you're looking at about £80,000. Obviously that will have a lot to do with COVID, the chips being in short supply, and the amount of new cars that are coming out, they're not coming out fast enough. So it's bumping up the prices of the used car market. Anyway, it was an okay car, but Okay, number 7, my 986 Porsche Boxster. It was a lovely little 2-seat convertible, great for thrashing around the country roads and putting the roof down during the summer months. It was the 2.7 model though, which made me feel that it was a little bit underpowered, and long-time viewers will remember that I did give this car away to a subscriber. He's now since sold it, so I've no idea where this car is, but hopefully it's still out there giving somebody a lot of enjoyment. I would have another 986 Boxster at some point, an absolute sure future classic. Prices are still good as well, to be honest. Now I really do need to start selling some of these wheels. They're taking up a lot of space. I've got about 5 or 6 sets. So if anybody's interested in buying a set of these wheels, hit me up on Instagram. I'll show you what I've got. In fact, I'll do some posts on Instagram. But next up is number 6. I tried to get back into a black 991 Carrera S. And I bought it out of pure boredom, I'll be honest. It was during lockdown, there wasn't a lot going on, and I was just completely bored. So I bought this black 991 Carrera S. I shouldn't have. I did a few mods to it and it didn't look too bad, but it rattled and vibrated like nobody's business and I just couldn't live with it. I wasn't really happy with the way that the car was delivered to me either, and in hindsight, I should have rejected it. I had to do repairs as soon as I bought it. Fair enough, the dealer did give me money off, but they knew the car was in that condition despite telling me otherwise. I should have rejected it. Ultimately though, it had to go. Number 5, my 987 Cayman S. A cool little car, and some would say the first generation was the best. Now I wouldn't necessarily say that, but I really did enjoy owning mine. In fact, it's probably one of the best routes into Porsche ownerships you can get. It would have made a great little car for track and street, but I sold it to a local lady who really loved the car. I loved the car as well, but it had to go to a new home eventually. I just had too many other cars at the time. So number 4 is this car right here. It's my 2013 Porsche Cayman 981, finished in white. It's had quite a few modifications done to it, although you probably wouldn't automatically notice them. They kind of have to be pointed out. But I will be making another video on the modifications that have been done on this car and then removed from this car because I might not have been perfectly happy with them. But I've owned it for about a year. I do love the way it drives. It's really, really well balanced, well powered, and it looks great. I get a lot of positive comments on it everywhere it goes. So as I say, there are a couple more modifications to be done, modifications which have been done, but a video will be coming out finalising all the modifications probably early in January 2023. But it's like every time I get into it, I realise why I love this car so much, and it's all about the driving experience that it does give you. You know, it's nothing like an air-cooled or an old classic 911, but what it does give you is a turnkey, you know, really, really enjoyable, blood-pumping experience. So we're getting into the business end of things now, and number 3 on my list was my Porsche 911 Targa 4 GTS. What a car this was. I do regret selling it, but it was the right thing to do. It turned so many heads left, right and centre, and I do feel like a little bit of Miami had arrived in Northern England when I brought it home to Newcastle upon Tyne. It was, however, a second or third car which I only drove when it was sunny, and to be only driving a car of this value for a couple of months per year, I just couldn't justify it sitting there for too long. It was a lot of money to have had held up in that car, so I did have to sell it on. Great car, I'd recommend it to anybody. Tick it off your bucket list and get one. So number 2 was my first ever Porsche. It was a Porsche 996 Carrera 4, finished in rainforest green. I don't have many videos or pictures of this car because I bought it at a time when YouTube just wasn't really a thing. And it was a kind of car that I bought it when my business was doing well and I kind of had a bit of money in my back pocket, and I thought to myself, do you know what? I'm going to try and buy a Porsche 911. And I did. I loved it. It had GT3 styling. It had a great sound with the muffler bypass exhaust, which I included, and it sounded absolutely incredible. It's a car that I still wish I had to this day. I'd buy it back if it was for sale. Well, I don't know the owner, but I know he's on my Instagram, so I know who's got the car currently, and you know, if he does decide to sell it, I've said to him, I will buy it back. It's not the most exciting car in the world, it's not the most amazing 911 you'll ever see, but it holds a place high up in my heart because it was my first Porsche, the brand that I love so much these days. So one day, maybe it might happen, it might come back onto this channel, it might be coming back into the garage. Maybe. Hopefully. So if you've got this far into the video, you're probably thinking, well, come on, just tell us what number 1 is. Well, finally, we've got here. We've got to the top spot. My number one Porsche that I've ever owned is this one right here. It's a 2006 997 Carrera 4S, finished in speed yellow. It's a car that's had a few different looks over the years, but it is a colour that demands attention wherever it goes. It always stands out amongst the crowd, amongst the greys, the blacks, the silvers, the blues. Not that I'm saying there's anything wrong with those cars, but this car just really stands out. It's fast-ish, it sounds great, it looks awesome, it's timeless, and some say it's the best 911 generation to date. Obviously that's subjective, but I do happen to agree with that. Obviously I'm biased because I've got one, and I've had this in my garage now for about 5.5 years. And honestly, from time to time I have considered selling it, but then I think to myself, well, with the money that I'd sell for that, with that car, or the money I'd get for that car, what could I go out and buy that would equally match that car? And the answer is absolutely nothing. Even if I was to get top money for that car, like say 45 grand, what could I go out and buy with 45 grand that would match it? There's nothing, unfortunately. So I'm stuck with it. I'm absolutely stuck with it, which is a good thing though, because I've had it for 5.5 years. I've absolutely loved it. And do you know what? Here's to the next 5.5 years with this car, because it's just amazing. It's my all-time #1. I'm so pleased I bought it. You know, I like that you can chop and change the look of the car. Like right now, it's got the black splitter on the front. It has had a yellow splitter on the front at a different time. It's got black lobster claw wheels on right now, where I've also got a set of GT3 wheels. It's got a big spoiler on the back. Well, it hasn't got it on right now because again, I'm using the flush look, but it's got a big spoiler on the back if I want to go all out, look at me kind of thing. As for what the future holds and my next Porsche, well, you never know. I'm always looking. I think at some point I'd love to add an air-cooled 911, an old classic. I say air-cooled, oil-cooled, whatever you want to call it. So I'd love to add one of those to my garage at some point in the future, but you never know what's around the corner. I have got a few other projects on the go that are outside of the car world, so you know, I've got to be careful about where I put my money. As I say, I've got 4 videos coming between Christmas and New Year, so look out for those on the channel for my 991, my Macan, my Targa and my Cayenne. And once again, Merry Christmas everybody, Happy New Year, and I wish you all the best for 2023. I'll see you in the new year. Let's turn that off though first. Goodbye.